Story of the Buddha. Many years after he left Kapilavatthu, the Buddha went back to visit his father King Suddhodana, who was very ill. The king was very happy to see the Buddha again and felt better. But because he was very old, he could no longer resist the illness, and 2 or 3 days later he passed away. Everyone felt very sad. When King Suddhodana died, Lady Prajapati Gotami felt very sad. She and several other women decided to leave the worldly life and join the Buddha's group of monks to practice the Dharma. So she led the women to see the Buddha. She asked him to accept them as nuns, but the Buddha refused. The women felt very disappointed and cried. But they did not give up their wish to become nuns. When the Buddha was residing at the Mahavaha Monastery, Lady Prajapati Gotami and her group of women went to the monastery and told Ananda what had happened. Ananda felt compassion for them and promised to help them. He went to see the Buddha to ask him to be merciful and let the women join the monastic order. But the Buddha refused again. Ananda then said, "I beg you, Lord Buddha, please do a favor to Prajapati Gotami and accept her and other women as nuns, because she has done you great favors in the past. She brought you up as her own son." So finally the Buddha said, "All right, if they are willing to follow the monastic rules I give them, they can leave home and become nuns and practice the Dharma." After leaving the Buddha, Ananda went to tell Lady Prajapati Gotami the good news. All the women were very happy and promised to observe the 8 rules of conduct that the Buddha gave them. Ananda then went back to the Buddha and told him that the women were happy to follow the rules. So Prajapati Gotami became the first Buddhist nun. Of all the disciples of the Buddha, his cousin Ananda was the most devoted to him. So the Buddha selected him to be his close attendant. Another of the Buddha's cousins also became a monk. His name was Devadatta. But he was envious of the Buddha and competed with him, trying to take over the leadership. 66. Devadatta was very conceited, and was jealous of the two chief disciples of the Buddha. So he left the Sangha, the community of monks and nuns, and made friends with the crown prince Ajatasattu, son of King Bimbisara. The prince built a private monastery for Devadatta. Devadatta then persuaded the prince to kill his father, King Bimbisara, and make himself king. The prince followed Devadatta's evil scheme and starved his father to death so he could become king. '67. Now Devadatta felt very powerful, because the new king was his friend and supporter. So he decided to kill the Buddha. One evening, while the Buddha was walking past a rocky hill, Devadatta pushed a huge stone down the hillside, intending to kill the Buddha. But the rock suddenly broke into many pieces and only one sharp piece hit the Buddha, on his foot. The Buddha returned to the monastery and was treated by the famous physician Javaka. '68. Although his evil plot had failed, Devadatta tried to kill the Buddha again. When the Buddha was on his daily alms round at Rajagaha, Devadatta set loose a wild elephant. But as the wild elephant ran towards the Buddha, it became calm because of the Buddha's enormous loving kindness. After this incident, Devadatta gave up trying to kill the Buddha, but he still wanted to break up the Sangha. '69. To impress the other monks and nuns and disrupt the Sangha, Devadatta asked the Buddha to make stricter rules of conduct for the Sangha. He asked that monks not be allowed to sleep in houses or eat any meat. But the Buddha refused Devadatta's proposal. He said, if some monks prefer to sleep in the open or not eat meat, they are free to do so. But if they do not wish to live this way, they do not have to. Finally, the Buddha said, Devadatta, if you try to break up the Sangha, you will reap the evil fruits. '70. Devadatta ignored the Buddha's warning, led away a group of monks and made himself their leader. One day, when Devadatta was asleep, the Buddha's chief disciple Sariputta came and warned the monks about the consequences of evil actions. The monks realized their mistake and returned to the Buddha. When Devadatta woke up, he was so angry that he became ill. Eventually, he began to regret his actions, and he asked his servants to take him to see the Buddha. But he died unexpectedly on the way there.